The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Wednesday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. It's the season finale of Wrestling Wednesday. We are fresh off the state championships down in Columbus. Chris Colucci to my right, Gary Leininger below me, Scotty Mincher to the bottom right. We have a packed show for you guys today, and we will start with very special guest and back-to-back state champion from Garfield. It is Mr. Keegan Sell. Doesn't have to sell too many people on how good he is.
Thank you guys for having me on.
You got it, buddy. As I said before we came on, we're doing good, but probably not as good as you are. Congratulations on being another state champion back-to-back. This is awesome for you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you again. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
And Keegan, you're not the only state champion for YSN. Micaiah Newland will be joining very, very soon as well from East Liverpool. So I'd say a pretty successful weekend for our YSN family.
Mm-hmm.
But Keegan, we'll start with you just real quick. After winning last year, this whole season has been about trying to get back, trying to stay hungry, not be complacent. What was it like going through this season and keeping that mentality and not being okay with just winning one state championship a year ago?
Well, I kind of just treated it like any other season, really. I mean, every match is a match that you can lose no matter who you're up against. 'Cause, I mean, last year I lost some matches that probably could have went either way. And just treat every match like a different match. Every year is a new year. So, I mean, you never know what could happen. I didn't really let it, sit in my mind too much that I was the returning state champ. I just thought that, every kid's out to get me and turn out to work out, so.
Keegan, I gotta ask you, when your state championship finals match, it came down to the wire. It was about 12 seconds left. It's all tied up. You're on bottom. You get a reversal and put him on his back. Talk to me about what was going through your thought process in that whole entire sequence.
Well, he took me down right before that to tie it up, and he was only the second kid to take me down all year. And at that point, I was pretty much the most tired I've ever been. So I was thinking if I didn't, get out on bottom or score some way, that I was going to lose in overtime, which I probably would have. He probably would have taken me down, just being 100% serious. So, I just thought when you have that little amount of time, like what was it, 11, 12 seconds, you can't really set up a move. You kind of just have to go, just, roll around. And Chris, you wrestle, you don't really have a lot of time to do stuff. You just got to figure out a way to get him to lock his hands or anything. So my first thought process was just, try and sit up and just see where he goes and just move from there.
Keegan, last year we had this same conversation after you won your first state title. One of the things that we talked about was you having a bullseye on your back all year, because now everybody's going to know you. The people who didn't know you now. Do you feel like that was the case, that all year long you got the best from everybody that you wrestled and they knew who you were and they brought it?
For the most part, yeah. I know a couple kids wrestled up a weight class to wrestle me. Gabriel Blissenbaugh from Southern Local was a really good kid I wrestled. He wrestled 75 at state, but he wrestled me at EOWL, and he was a good competitor. And I talked to him later, and he said that's basically why he wrestled that weight, was, just to have a good match and wrestle against me. So there were some kids like that. There was some other kids, too, that I felt like kind of just rolled over, like they kind of gave up before the match started. But for the most part, kids went out there, just wrestled hard, didn't really affect them. If I was a state champion, if I'd never been to state before in the first place. So,
Keegan, my question for you, and I think this is asked of everyone that goes back and wins a championship at any level, how does it compare? Like, which one meant a little bit more to you? Do they both mean the exact same, one or the other? Talk about the comparisons between the two.
More meaningful might be the one that just happened, just because it was my final wrestling match ever, end of my senior year, and there was the amount of support that we had this year was really unlike anything else that I've ever experienced. There was a lot of people who came down to watch my finals match that don't even really care about wrestling. They just wanted to see me. People watching the match in their garages and stuff, and so I feel like that was just kind of like a storybook way to kind of end my wrestling career. State finals, tied with 10 seconds left. Last year's one was super meaningful just because obviously it was one of the first in school history, and I got to do it with longtime drill partner, best friend Hunter Andell, so that meant a lot. But I think it really just is a storybook ending this year. I think that's why this one's more meaningful. I should say not important, but meaningful.
Keegan, I gotta ask you. So for like young kids that are freshmen, sophomores that think they can't be on top of the podium, what's some motivation or words of advice that you would like to give your younger self, or even the younger kids coming up into wrestling and thinking the sport's really hard, which it is. It's a tough sport, very mentally sport. What's some of the advice you can give those young kids coming up in the sport?
Well, you see it all the time. You see kids who maybe have not had a lot of success in years prior. They take a summer and they just keep wrestling. They go really hard in practice, take every practice serious. And then, their final 2 years of high school or even just senior year, they really turn it up a notch and are a completely different person. I would just say compete. I can't lie. I didn't really try super hard in practice all the time. But if we ever went like live or anything like that, I would definitely compete no matter who we went against. Drilling was a different story. But going live, like Hunter, if I ever went live with Hunter, I would give it 100%, even if we wrestle each other every single day. And I think that really helped us just being competitive in that nature. So, be competitive, try and get 1% better every practice.
Keegan, I wanted to ask you, I was just curious, like coming into this year, knowing you were coming off one title and, looking to repeat, did you, because you already won one, was it just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? And did you go forward on the mat kind of thinking, I'm just going to do the same thing? Or did you tweak anything a little bit? Or did you add anything to when you got onto the mat that you felt was really kind of valuable? Anything new? Or did you just kind of go with what worked going back a couple years ago?
All right, Keegan, hold that thought because we have another state champion that we have to bring in, just introduce real quick.
Okay, yeah.
East Liverpool's Micaiah Newland just checked in, and we're going to bring her on the show too. Micaiah, thank you so much for coming on. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So we're going to let Keegan answer that last question, then we'll ask you a couple too. And I know you have class, so we'll try to get you out of here in a timely manner.
All right.
Yeah, so Scotty, back to your question. I kind of just had like a little bit of the same mentality, just do what I did last year a little bit. The only real thing I changed was this year I hand fought a lot more. I was more heavy with my hands. I still was on the attack a lot, but I don't want to say I slowed down, but I wasn't as like out from space, that sort of thing. I kind of relied on my strength a little bit more. But other than that, it was kind of the same. Like you said, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Or yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Nothing was broken. It still worked out. Only lost one match this year. And really just stuck with the game plan that our coach gave us the past couple of years, and it just turned out to work out the past 2 years.
All right, Micaiah Newland from East Liverpool, also a state champion this weekend. Micaiah, one question we have to ask is from the top. What are the emotions that go through your mind when you finally, win that last match and you're crowned state champion?
Honestly, it was such a relief because I felt like being in that position, I had to get it done regardless. So, but it honestly feels amazing to come back to my hometown and represent my school the way I did, considering we haven't had a state champ since like 1950s. So it's honestly just an amazing feeling to be able to, you know, also open up a path for other girls in my area to get into the sport as well.
Hey, Makai, you spent a total of 5 minutes and 20 seconds on the mat at the state tournament. You pinned all 4 of your opponents, and you dropped down this year in weight, right?
I did.
So you also did a bunch of powerlifting. In that
Yes.
finals match, you got a body lock, and you just tossed your girl straight to her back.
Yeah.
You think the lifting and the dropping down a weight class really is what puts you up over the top?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Micaiah, you gotta talk about your coach here for a second. Gotta give him some glory. He brought 3 state qualifiers and all 3 state placed. I think he's in running a coaching of the year for YSN awards for wrestling. Talk to me about your coach and how meaningful he means to your program and everything that he does.
All right, so he coached me my 8th grade year, which was my first year, and he's just always been very supportive. Like if we ever need to cut weight for a tournament, like he's always there like ahead of time to make sure, everything's good. And a lot of people don't see what he does behind the scenes. Like with scheduling and all that. So he's not always in the room all the time, but everything he does is um, appreciated very much. But even during the off season, he's always there, like going to like nationals and everything, going down to Virginia Beach, all that stuff. But yeah, he's very supportive, and he definitely knows what he's doing. So
You have put so much time on the mat, high level wrestling, and really put in so much work to get to this point. So my next question is like you've gotten a state championship. What's still left on your goal board? What are some things that you still want to accomplish in your wrestling career?
well, I plan to wrestle in college, so a national title's on the way too. So.
On the way, I love it. I have no doubt.
Hey, this one's for either one of you guys. Keegan, you're a 2-timer. Makai, you won. A lot of people that wrestle, they have, if you talk to them after high school, they got a lot of regrets. I didn't push myself hard enough. I lost this match that I shouldn't have lost. You two get to do something that almost no one gets to do, win your last match in the state finals. Do you both feel like you left it all on the mat, that you don't have any regrets, and you have peace about what you did in your high school career?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
I had something for you, Micaiah. I was just wondering. Gary shared recently that girls' high school wrestling is the fastest growing sport in the country. So I just wanted to know, with you winning this state title and um, everything like that, do you think, like, going forward, do you see wrestling, and as far as just your attacking style and what you've done in going to the collegiate level, do you think you really could even become better? And what is one thing, as far as your underclassmen go, that you want them to be kind of remember you by once you do hit the collegiate level?
Yeah, so I I don't really know how to answer that.
Yeah. I'll have one more before we let you go because I know you got class.
Yeah.
When you say, when Gary and Scotty both said girls wrestling is the most highest, the fastest growing sport in the country, which means a lot of young girls are starting to get into it now.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to young wrestlers that are starting to get into it on the girls' side and starting to really see a path for success now with the state of Ohio, recognizing it as a certified sport?
Honestly, just chase your dreams. Make sure you're putting in all the work. Make sure you don't have any regrets. Like I wish I would have started at a younger age, I mean, considering there wasn't many opportunities for girls wrestling, it wasn't really an option. But definitely, if you're going to do it, stick with it. It's obviously not an easy sport, so no matter what hardships you're going through, just keep pushing it. It'll be worth it in the end. So.
Makai, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We know you're in a hurry. We just appreciate the time so much. We congratulate you so much on the state championship. Everyone at YSN, very proud of you, and we can't wait to talk to you real soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's Micaiah Newland, once again, state champion from East Liverpool. We'll turn our attention back to Keegan. I want to talk about your college career. We've had a couple of wrestlers on that have decided to go the football route. You have two. You're going to Grand Valley State. Talk about what went into that decision and why you picked football and then why you picked Grand Valley.
Well, after last wrestling season, I really had a hard time deciding on what I wanted to do. I've always liked football more, but when you do something like that in a sport, it's hard to kind of get away from it. But throughout the summer and, as my senior football season went through, I realized that I do want to play football. And Grand Valley State, they contacted me in the summer. I was talking to them for a little bit, went on an unofficial visit, went on a game day visit. And their coaches really they have the same kind of mentality, and it's kind of the same culture at Grand Valley State as it is at Garfield with the, the building a winning tradition, improve every day and compete. And I think I've mentioned it a couple of times now about like competing and that sort of thing, but it's one of my favorite things to do is compete, try and be your absolute best every day, make each other better at the same time. And I think Grand Valley State's a great place where I can do that, not only on the football field, but just become a better person in general. And yeah, so I'm excited for my future in college and sports and all that stuff.
What's you won 2 state championships. Take that away. What's some of your biggest accomplishments in high school, minus the state championships? Academically, athletically, what are some of your biggest accomplishments that you've done, minus the state championships?
Well, for wrestling, my 2021 going into my sophomore year, decided to go to Fargo, which is a national freestyle tournament in North Dakota. I took 6th there in the U16, which was probably the most fun I've ever had wrestling. It was like an entire week of, charter buses staying in the North Dakota State University dorms with kids from all across the state. It was a lot of fun. Got to wrestle in the Fargo Dome. So it was just a cool experience. Placed twice at state my freshman and sophomore year. Had a good high school football career. That went well. Really enjoyed all the time I got to spend with friends, whether it was wrestling or football. And then with school and stuff, I just, I held good grades. Struggled a little bit freshman and sophomore year just because I wasn't really paying attention as much as I probably should have. But yeah, I did some college classes last year, got some credits, and really just had a great high school career. Had a lot of fun, made a lot of memories, and there's not a whole lot that I can really say I regret.
Don't worry, Keegan. That's what freshman and sophomore year are for, man. Learning how to do it, learning what to do right. Well, I like to ask seniors about the legacy they want to leave and what they expect from the program after they leave it. Obviously, Garfield Wrestling now all of a sudden, because of you and Hunter and the guys that have come through the last couple of years, has this huge standard now and this standard of success that is so high. Shout out some guys that you think are going to hold up that standard and are going to keep Garfield Wrestling going and competing after you graduate.
Well, I think first one is Hunter Andell's younger brother, Landon Andell. Freshman this year, lost a couple tough matches at districts, but every single kid that made it out at his districts, made it to state, every single one of them placed. So, he really had a hard time at districts, but definitely him. He's a hard worker, loves the sport. I think my younger brother will continue to work and do his absolute best. Luke Kaufman's another good one, loves the sport. Going to do his absolute best every day. Didn't make it to districts this year, but, showed a lot of promise. And Cameron Lewicki is a good one too, sophomore. He's a young kid who really also, I think that's the thing. All 4 of them, they're willing to work, willing to put in the effort and time they need to just become better wrestlers and do their absolute best.
Keegan, I had a question for you. With so much success that you've had, and you talked about going to start a career with football, as well. And I just wanted to know, obviously, they're two totally different sports, but is there something you could take from wrestling that kind of made you successful that you think you could use maybe on the football field, whether it be like just a mental thing or maybe even a physical thing?
Definitely, I would say mental and physical thing. Wrestling is by far harder than football. It's just there's no other way to describe it other than it sucks. Wrestling's terrible. It really is so hard. So I think the mental toughness and physical strength that comes with wrestling. There's a lot of muscles you work in wrestling that hitting curls and benching all that stuff doesn't really hit. It's just like hidden muscles, I should say. I don't know, but little things like that. I think the wrestling really helps, and you can tell when kids play football, you can tell if they wrestle or not based off of toughness. They don't get worked up when things don't go to plan. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of mental and physical things really help in football from wrestling.
Keegan, we talked to Dallas McCracken last week, and he's going to YSU to play football. And one thing he said was, knowing that this was it, that state tournament was it, that it's going to be bittersweet. Now, you said something that I've said on this show for 3 years, that wrestling's hard, and most of the time it sucks because you're doing things that are hard that you don't want to do or you wouldn't do otherwise. But do you still feel like it was bittersweet and that you're really going to miss certain parts of the sport now that you're moving on to other things?
Yeah, I will for sure. When you do something for as long as I wrestled, I wrestled since kindergarten. There's going to be things you miss. I'll definitely miss tournaments and stuff. I enjoyed, even if they're an all day event. I like wrestling live and that sort of thing. Bus rides with friends, teammates. That's always very important. I think that's almost everybody's favorite part of wrestling. But yeah, like the competitive side I miss. It's just you versus one other guy. If you lose, it's on you. There's really nothing else to blame it on. Sometimes refs can make bad calls, but it's really your fault if you lose. I like that. Take some sort of accountability for yourself. Yeah, I think I'll miss that about wrestling for sure.
Come on, I know you're gonna miss weight cuts. Come on.
I mean, that makes it easy on me.
Keegan, you started your year out at 215 and talking about weight cuts, you went down to 190. What was the thought? Like, why did you guys go to that change? What made you guys come to the decision to go down to 190?
Well, beginning of the wrestling season, I was like 206, 207 after football. So I was like, yeah, I'm not cutting weight. I don't want to do that. So I just wrestled 215 to start the year. Was going well. Didn't really have any issues, but as the year went on with practice, tournaments, just that sort of thing, I started to lose weight. And by maybe around January-ish, I was already down to like 195, and I was still eating normal. I didn't really have to like watch what I ate. So I just thought, for some tournaments are also 215 still, but for bigger tournaments, I might as well wrestle 195 or 190 because I'll be bigger than everybody else. I'm already used to that weight. And, some of the 215s, they can be 225, 230 normally. So I'd be giving up 30 pounds. So I just figured if I'm only 5 pounds away, I might as well just not eat for a day and make 190. So.
Keegan, my final question for you, the wrestling is done now. You can take a deep breath. You can have some free time before you start working for college football. How are you spending it? What are you doing to kind of, give yourself a break after that long, strenuous, and like you said, kind of suckish in the sense of wrestling sucks at times season? What are you doing now to relax yourself?
Well, nothing. I mean, I'm not taking at least a week off before I start going to the gym again, but just going home after school, spending time with my girlfriend. That's literally about it. Just doing nothing. Enjoying my time, free time. I cleaned up my room yesterday. I'm actually at my girlfriend's house right now doing this. So, just spending time enjoying myself for the next week or so.
You've earned it. I think we can all say that you've earned that. You've earned way more than a week, but props to you for only taking a week. We wish you the best of luck moving forward, Keegan. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for the second straight year to celebrate a second straight state championship. We appreciate it, and man, we can't wait to talk to you again real soon.
Yeah, thank you guys again for having me on. I appreciate it.
You
Thanks,
got it,
Keegan.
buddy. Keegan Sell from Garfield, Michaela Newland from East Liverpool, both state champions, both joining us on this show. We thank them for their time. Guys, what an awesome state championship weekend. I know you guys have so much you want to talk about. You guys were both down there in Columbus. Chris took awesome pictures. Gary was putting his thumbs on fire on Twitter with updates that I could barely keep up with. What was it like down there? First, just some general recaps of your thoughts.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of good wrestling. First, I have to shout out Scotty. I love your shirt. That's my favorite movie of all time. Great T-shirt, Scotty. That's the
Thank
amazing Pulp Fiction shirt. I love it. But back on the wrestling, I just had to get that out. It was really fun. We had a lot of fun. We had me, Gary, and another guy down there that's helping us take pictures is Joe Murray. He helped out a lot. We had a lot of fun. It was different being on that perspective of the wrestling floor. You know, I was down there the last 2 years wrestling. This year I'm down there taking media pictures. It sucked. I wanted to be on the mat, but I graduated and I can't do that anymore. So it was a lot of fun. The girls did really well. I'm excited. I think we probably had 15 placers, I would say, out of the 45 we brought down, maybe more than that. We'd have to look back and look at everything, but I'm very happy with how all our wrestlers did. I got also to shout out a Liberty, Jermaine Watson. He first time in 21 years a Liberty wrestler has won a match at the state tournament by upsetting a number 1 seed. So that was really big. Just some of the things that I thought, and I'll give it over to Gary.
Yeah, it was a really, really fun weekend. I had my head on a swivel. I was watching all 10 mats at the same time because there were so many YSN kids there. And I don't know how much better the YSN family could have done. 2 state champions. We had another finalist, and we had 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th place. We had kids place at every single level, boys and girls. We had boys and girls from the same school's place. We had kids who upset previous state champions, people who placed way higher than their ranking. I think that we saw an absolutely amazing weekend of wrestling, and the YSN family especially. I don't know how much better we could have done. Winning matches at the final seconds of a match. We saw Paige Cowan. She's a freshman from East Liverpool. She was down by 2 points with 12 seconds left and ended up winning by a point as time expired. Tristan Eccles from East Liverpool did the same thing in his finals match for 7th and 8th. He was down 2, got a reversal and back points as time expired. Colton Barker from Louisville went 4-1 on the weekend and won 3 of them in overtime. I can't tell you how difficult that is at the state tournament. These wrestlers just dug deep, the boys and the girls. We have so many multiple time placers now. I think that it was an amazing weekend. And if this is a sign of things to come within the YSN family, there's going to be a lot of stuff for Chris and I to do in the years coming.
I mean, one of the things obviously I wasn't down there, just following your Twitter account and the updates you were doing. There were a lot of just close matches that we were able to pull out and win in the nitty gritty. What was it like to see YSN wrestlers be able to not just, obviously there were some matches that were dominated, but the ones that were just, it could have gone either way, and our YSN wrestlers kept finding a way to come out on top of those kind of matches.
It was exciting. I'm sitting in press row yelling to or stalling just like I was a coach out there. It makes the tournament so much more fun, so much more enjoyable. You got a lot of kids that you're rooting for at the same time. I just think that, like Chris said, it was a ton of fun. Don't get me wrong. I worked my butt off. I had to have a day of recovery when I got back. But at the same time, I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, it was. I was cheering. I was reading something. It was like, can't be cheering on the floor, or else we're gonna face repercussions. I didn't care. I was cheering for our people. I wanted them to win. I was so excited. Seeing we had 2 state champs, another finalist. I keep saying that it was so fun. It was so fun, and I want people to experience that. If you want to be a part of this, DM us. Like, we'll get you live streaming matches next year. We're gonna have a lot of fun next year. Me and Gary want to try and do a Wrestling Wednesday throughout the rest of the year. We're gonna figure something out. We'll get that up working. But if you want to be a part of this, let us know. We're gonna get we want to get as many duels, as many tournaments as we can get next year. I want to do the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth of EOWL next year. I want to get them all covered. I want to have a lot of fun with this, and we're growing. It's going to be a growing sport. It's the whole reason why I'm coming back here to do this, is to grow the sport in our area. Northeast Ohio is the best area of wrestling, and if you want to cover the best area of wrestling, come for YSN. We'll get you hooked up. You'll call some matches. It's going to be a lot of fun.
You know what? People can say what they will about, you can't cheer in them, but that's what makes YSN special. Like, we are fans of these kids. We're not just the media that this kind of is covering them because it's our job. Like, we are legitimately fans of the student athletes that we cover. And those two, Gary and Chris, their experience on wrestling proves it. I mean, these are guys that, some of them Gary has to compete against in the regular season, in the EOAC, and some people that I'm sure, Chris, you had to wrestle against in your high school career. You put on the YSN hat, you're rooting for them. These are our guys. These are our guys and girls out there putting in everything they can. We're fans, and that's what makes YSN, I think, really special, is that we care about the athletes we're covering.
Absolutely. When 6 years ago, when I first started doing this, one of the things DJ told me was, you're allowed to be a homer on YSN. You're allowed to root for the kids that you're covering, and he encouraged it. And that was a big relief at the time. Because you're supposed to stay neutral, but not when you're covering a home team or a group of kids from, YSN. It was a lot of fun, and I tell you, I can't wait till next year.
Now, Chris, during that interview, you alluded to postseason awards on YSN. Can you talk about what the plans are for that? I mean, I don't know if you're ready to announce anything, but can you talk about like kind of what awards we might be giving out, and where we can find them when they're released and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. So me and Gary, we've been talking. We have some people in our minds that who could win some of the awards, and some of those awards are Outstanding Wrestler of the Year for guys, Outstanding Wrestler of the Year for girls. If you put two and two together, I think you could think who those two are. Then we have Coach of the Year, Team of the Year, Outstanding Freshman Boy of the Year, and Outstanding Freshman Girl of the Year. So we have a lot of awards to hand out. Very excited. We're going to announce, me and Gary are going to finalize them here real soon, and then we'll get them out on social medias. And it's going to be interesting. Going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, a couple of those sound like no-brainers a little bit, But when you think about what we can do in the future, I mean, what we're doing, we're talking about this is the end of our season. This is the last Wrestling Wednesday on Running Point. At least I know you guys might kick it back up. We might have a continuation of season 4. But talk about what it means to keep what bar you want to raise. Like, if you said, hey, we want YSN to start doing this, or this is something that we want to see in the future of wrestling coverage at YSN, what kind of things do you guys see? I'll start with Gary.
We're just continuing to cover the big tournament finals, but the duels, I think that's when you have a tournament final, you're just getting the best kids from 10, 15, 20 plus schools. When you do a duel, every kid gets to wrestle, or at least every weight class gets wrestled. Most of the kids will get to wrestle. You're going to have a grandmother who lives out of state, a grandfather, siblings that can't be there, whoever can watch their loved ones wrestle. I think if we continue to focus on as many duels as we can, that's going to grow the sport, because people are going to tune in to see, someone that they care about get out there and wrestle, who maybe can't get to the finals of the EOWL, which most people can't. That's a tough tournament. So I think if we focus on that, that can be something. And if, we can get more access in these bigger tournaments, like in the state tournament, the district tournament, things like that, I think that could help grow the sport too. Those are things that, we would have to talk about and look more into. But there's a lot of room for growth in this sport. I'll tell you that. The wrestling community is not a big one, but it is one that has a high ceiling.
Well, I'll tell you this. We have covered more wrestling matches this year than we ever have before. We have had more wrestling profiles on the website more than ever before. And we had much better coverage of the state tournament than we ever had before. So we are definitely continuing to take that step up. Guys, I guess this is the chance for our final thoughts of the wrestling season. Break it down and kind of wrap this baby up and put a bow on Wrestling Wednesdays.
I'd just like to thank everyone that tuned in to all the matches that we covered, all the tournaments we covered, the state championships that we covered. It was a lot of fun this year. This is just the beginning. I'm not going anywhere. Gary's not going anywhere. We'll be back better than ever. We're gonna grow this even more. And I am putting the challenge out to the people. Come call sporting events. I don't care if it's wrestling, football, baseball, basketball, golf, because I know we did one this year. Come out, come on, and let's just expand YSN. Let's get wrestling bigger. Let's get baseball bigger. Let's get every sport we can bigger. But more importantly to my dear heart, I need people for wrestling to come call matches this year. I don't care if you don't know anything about it. We'll coach you up and you'll know stuff about it. Come on out. Come commentate some matches with me, Gary. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I know we have a lot of fun. I want to bring people to the state tournament next year. Come on out. Let's do this thing.
Chris and Gary need a posse. You know, they need a group of 7 or 8 guys that can take down the state.
That would be awesome. Anthony, I said this last week. Thank you again for starting up this Wrestling Wednesday. It's as a coach, there's a lot of stress throughout the season. A lot of things I have to have my brain in 50 different places, and I always look forward to Wednesday afternoons doing this, getting to talk to the kids, having you two pick my brain, putting this experience and stuff I have in my brain to use, answering you guys' questions. Thank you so much for that. Like Chris said, let's get more people out there covering the sport. There is room for growth. If you're a former wrestler or something, contact one of us. We'll get you started. There is a whole lot of wrestlers out there that would love to be interviewed. There's a whole lot of coaches out there that would love to be interviewed. And I loved what Micaiah had to say about Coach Shaw. People don't see the things that you do behind the scenes, the schedules, being there late at practice, helping people wait, doing those kind of things. That's having these kids on and having people to cover these matches. We're going to be able to get that kind of information out to people so they can really see what goes into the sport, because I will die on a hill that says there's more put into this sport than any other sport out there as far as what the kids are required to do and the amount of hours a coach has to put in. I'm not talking about the extra hours. I'm talking about just what's required. There's a whole lot of time put in, and I don't feel like wrestling coaches and the kids get the recognition they deserve for the amount of work that they put in.
And if you're out there thinking, well, if I cover wrestling, I'm not going to be getting the views that basketball or football is. We broke the Running Point viewing record last week with Dallas McCracken's interview. So there are people out there that want to watch, that want to tune in, that want to hear from these wrestlers, that want to see what these wrestlers are all about. So don't think for a second that people aren't there to watch wrestling.
Absolutely. There's a community out there. And one thing about the wrestling community is they're extremely loyal. If you've ever heard of a brand called Rudis, just a few years ago, it was a small Ohio brand that is now the nation's leader in all wrestling gear. And it's because people got behind it and supported it because it was a wrestling brand for wrestlers. The wrestling community is extremely loyal, and I think people will see that when we start covering more.
We learned it last year when we did swimming. If it is a sport that is starved for attention, people will watch like crazy. We did a swimming meet last year that got like 2,000 views by itself. So we know that if there's a sport out there that's starved for attention and we give it to them, the views will be there. We promise you. These communities are strong, and the people that put a lot into these sports, wrestling, as we're talking about right now, but you can talk about bowling. We had a state championship in bowling this year. Boardman, great job in the bowling. We had a bunch of swimmers go to state. When you cover those kind of sports, those communities will flock to you. And that's what we keep trying to do here on YSN. Wrestling Wednesday, that wraps up season 4. We are so happy that we were able to bring it to you. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, We will recap the basketball game from last night. JFK moving on. We'll tell you about that as their win over Dalton. And we have 2 games to preview in the regional semifinals for boys basketball tonight as well. And then we'll see what's on Scotty's mind. We always do that every Wednesday. And we'll do all that and more coming up after this commercial break on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
And welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. You can see them in Scotty's box up there in the top right. Guys, we have one basketball game to recap from last night. It was the Division 4 regional semis between Warren JFK and Dalton. And if anyone watched Running Point yesterday, one of the things I said was if JFK got into the 70s, Dalton was going to be in a lot of trouble, and that's exactly what happened. JFK wins 75-55. This game went into the exact tempo that JFK wanted it to go. It was fast-paced. They were able to score a lot, and Dalton just could not keep up with that firepower. If Dalton had any chance to win, they needed to keep it in the 50s. They scored 55, right? So they needed to keep JFK down to inside the 50s for them to be able to succeed. They did that in their tournament run to get to the regional semifinals, and they just weren't able to do it against JFK. This offense has 4 players averaging double figures, hard to stop, and it was Mike Condolian and Nick Ryan last night that did most of the damage, 24 and 23 points respectively. JFK moving on to the powerhouse in Division 4, Richmond Heights, who are the reigning state champions in Division 4. That'll be on Friday at 7 at the Canton Memorial Fieldhouse. So JFK moving on with a big game over Dalton. We have 2 games tonight. Cardinal Mooney is going to be in action in the Canton Memorial Fieldhouse. They're going to be playing Canton Central Catholic. And we also have Hoban in action tonight in Division 1. They are playing at the University of Akron, and they are going to be squared up against Garfield Heights. That one will be Ty Bartell will be there reporting, but we are unable to broadcast these regional semifinal games because of NFHS having the video rights to these events. So we will unable to be broadcasting these games, but we will have people there reporting. We had Dom O'Brien. Want to give him a shout out. He went out of his way to be at the JFK game on last night, and he was there. He got post-game interviews. He did a good had a good interview with Nick Ryan and Michael Condolian, so we want to thank him for his time, of course, as well. 2 games tonight, and then one more game in the regional semifinals tomorrow where we will see 2 more. I'm sorry, Ursuline and Canfield both playing in their regional semifinals. If they win, we could see an Ursuline versus Canfield regional final, which is what we're all rooting for, because YSN versus YSN guarantees us somebody in the state.
Yeah, that would be a real treat. Awesome.
There's nothing better than knowing you're going to have someone in the state tournament, no matter what happens.
Did Richmond Heights and JFK play last year in the playoffs?
Let me. I don't know that at the top of my head. I have to go back in the archives.
I'm just curious. I mean, I know Richmond Heights is the talk of, Division IV for sure, and even beyond that. I've heard every basketball coach that I know and fan that I know talk about that team. And I know JFK, they've had a pretty good run last year, didn't they?
I know they have
if
played
so, I
in
would
the
imagine.
tournament, but last year JFK lost to Dalton in I think the regional semifinals in the same spot.
Okay.
But the year before that, I believe, is when they met in the tournament as well, because I know these two teams have met in tournament time. So yeah, last year JFK lost to Dalton. The year before that, they lost to Matthews in overtime. And then maybe it couldn't have been 2020 because that was the COVID year, so we didn't have a tournament.
What are the chances, or what does JFK
Oh, no, they did.
have?
They did lose to Richmond Heights in 2020 on
Okay.
March 12th. They lost to Richmond Heights 67-50. So they haven't played since 2020-21 season.
What do they have to do to win this game, guys?
Well, one of the things they have to do is they have to keep their balance. I think that's going to be one of the ways that JFK has really won the games that they have won by a lot is they've been balanced in their scoring. They've had multiple people score when they've been tripped up this year by Mogador and Lake Center. They've had that they've had a couple of guys go cold, and then they've had one guy have to run the show. So I think JFK, they got to have a balanced offense. There's no way they're going to be able to beat Richmond Heights without multiple people chipping in. That's going to be a big key. It was a big key against Dalton. You look at their box score. Obviously, Michael Condolian and Nick Ryan had 24 and 23, but then they had two more in double figures, and then one more was 6. So people were chipping in all around. So they have to have people chip in and be a balanced offense. It's hard to stop.
Anthony, do you think that JFK going into this against Richmond Heights once again, as far as like defensively, like going into this and their strategy going in, do you think because they've had the balanced attack on offense, and they've been very stingy defensively, would you consider them, like, do you think it would be wise for them to maybe throw something unique at Richmond Heights early, like maybe like press them a
I
little
think
bit to
at
get
this
the ball
stage,
pressure?
I don't think you're changing anything drastic. I think if you start to get in the game where you're starting to try to change what you do or try to throw something new, you're going to get yourself in trouble. I mean, Gary's a coach. He can attest to this even in wrestling. I bet if you're trying to throw in a brand new move for a wrestler because it's a big match, you're probably going to put him in a worse position than you would have if you just said, "Hey, here's what you're best at. Go out and do what you're best at." And I think that's what JFK has to do. I would not throw everything that you got in some unique fashion out at Richmond Heights. This is not such a mismatch that you say throw the kitchen sink at them and whatever it happens. I don't think it's that situation. Now Richmond Heights has had a massive tournament run. These scores are their tournament scores, and this is kind of intimidating, right? I mean, 92-32 in their first game, 62-26 in their second, 95-54 in their district championship. And then last night they beat Seneca East in the regional semis 87-37. So they've been dominating their way into the regional. But this year they're 16-9, which is not your typical Richmond Heights record. They do have losses on their season. In fact, they had one stretch where they lost 3 in a row. Newport, Reynoldsburg, and SJP beat them for a 3-game losing streak to open the season. So they started 0-3, and that had a lot of people looking at Richmond Heights, who's usually undefeated, one loss in the first three games of the season, going, what's going on in Richmond Heights. And obviously their experience and their ability to win tournament games has gotten them right back to where everyone expects them to. But they have had some adversity this year. I don't know if that makes Richmond Heights even more dangerous because now they know how to lose a little bit, and sometimes that can be a big benefit for you. But so far in the tournament, no one's been able to slow them down.
I would think that those 9 losses are to their benefit because, what's the old saying? What happened in the regular season doesn't matter because really, who cares? If you win, in theory, if you went 0-22 and you won a state championship, does it matter that you lost 3 games in a row, 22 games in a row? And I mean, a team like that's blowing people out by 50 points in the districts and regionals, they needed the adversity. And I'm sure the coach and athletic director made that schedule intentionally ridiculously hard so that they would have some adversity because they knew once they got into the playoffs in Division 4, probably not going to have much, much to really prepare for until they get later on into the tournament. I think that's a great job by their coaching staff. We'll see if it pays off. I don't know how having easier games would pay off later.
Big difference from last year where Richmond Heights went 29-0 and won the state championship. They were undefeated state champion. That does not happen too often where you go completely undefeated all the way to a state championship. But it happened for Richmond Heights, and they were never tested last year. They won the state championship by a final score of 70-26. Their closest tournament game was 15 points in the state semifinal, 66-51 against Russia. They had to play a country just to get close.
Good one there. Good one. Those scores are just crazy to me. To win by nearly 50 points in the state championship game, I could imagine that coach and that athletic director said, "Hey, things aren't always going to go this way. We've got to get things more difficult." And those names that you spouted off, are those Division I teams that they lost to?
I really don't even know. Like, those teams are teams that I honestly had never heard of. They might have traveled somewhere. They might have played out of state because those are the first 3 games of the regular season. So it could have been like a Thanksgiving. A lot of those early season tournaments happen. A couple of them here in the Valley. Howland hosts one, and the Tony Ross Invitational is usually right around that Thanksgiving break, season opener. So they could have traveled somewhere, but I don't know who those teams are. I've never heard of them. I'm not afraid to say it. But no matter what, I think a lot of people were looking at Richmond Heights a little bit sideways because what we saw from them last year, 29-0, they expected that to happen again, and it didn't. So people were saying, well, Richmond Heights coming into the tournament, people were saying, well, Richmond Heights isn't the Richmond Heights that we've seen before, and that probably got under their skin a lot.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you don't think we're the same Richmond Heights bet, and then they've done what they've done.
Yeah, and I can imagine, if you're JFK, you don't care about that record. You know who they are. That record means nothing, absolutely nothing. They're probably not taking them any less serious than they would have if they were 25-0 right now.
So like Newport is from Kentucky.
Okay.
So they lost to a Kentucky school in the first game of the season. And then Reynoldsburg is from Reynoldsburg, Ohio. So I've still never heard of them. Let's see what division they are. They are in Division 1.
Yeah.
So that's a D1 school in Ohio. And then the SJP is from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. St. Joseph's Prep. So, they lose to 2 out-of-state schools in 1 Division 1 school in Ohio.
Yeah.
And they're Division 4, by the way, if people...
And that's a public school, right?
Yeah. So...
that's crazy.
The Heights are alive and well in the tournament. But JFK, they're going to go up and give it their all. Goliath David only needed a stone, right?
That's
he
it.
Brought a stone to a sword fight and he still won. So I don't think this is quite David versus Goliath. I think this is JFK. I think they're plenty good to win this matchup. I think they match up pretty well. And I think it will probably be the closest tournament game that Richmond Heights has played all year.
And JFK has a pretty tough schedule, don't they?
Yes, they absolutely do. They've played their fair share of Division I teams. They had a tough go in the Portage County a little bit with a couple of losses to Mogador and Lake Center Christian. But like you said, losses teach you things, and they just beat a team that beat both those teams en route to a district championship in Dalton, and they beat them by 20. So I think they learned along the way of what they can and can't get away with on things that they have to execute on the basketball floor.
And they played that Lutheran West team, which is ridiculous too, right?
Yeah, that's Division 2, and they're still alive in Division 2, by the way. They're the one that beat up Howland.
I think that team, like overall ranking all divisions at Lutheran West, is a top 5 team.
Yeah, when you look at JFK, they are 20-6, so 16-9 versus 20-6. When they played Lutheran West, they lost by 15, 14, 75.
That's not bad at all for that. What little I know about basketball, that Lutheran West team is ridiculous. I mean, it might even be better than that, the Richmond Heights team. So, I mean, they've had their fair share of competition, obviously.
Yeah, JFK is well tested, and before the season, Coach Comlike came on Running Point, and he said this is the season that the JFK fans have been waiting for. So he saw something coming before the season even started, and here they are on the doorstep of making something special happen. You beat the big dog in Division 4. You open those doors to the state championship. I'm not saying that the other teams are easy or by any means. If you get to state, you're going to be a good team. But you got to feel like they feel pretty good about themselves if they beat the reigning state champion and kick down the doors into Dayton.
Oh, man. I can imagine that, it's the state championship game for them right now.
And that's what Richmond Heights has to deal with every week. Like, this is everyone's state championship. That's going to be brutal.
Yeah, it's I'm really, what I want to see is this game, gonna be, is there gonna be a little more defense, or is it just gonna be like a lot of offense in this game coming up here?
Richmond Heights does not get. I mean, looking at their scores, at least I haven't seen them live yet, but I don't think they get enough credit about their defense. Their scoring, they have plenty of games in the 80s and 90s, which gets a lot of pub with their offense. But you look at this defense. I mean, they held Seneca East to 38 points. That's a regional team. That's a regional qualifying team. You held the 30 points. Like, the defense is tough. They play really good defense, and it probably leads to a lot of easy offense. So I think, despite both teams having pretty high averages as far as the season goes, JFK averages just over 70 points per game. I think this might be one of those sneaky defensive games.
Are these big teams? Are these guys, big and athletic?
Oh, yeah. They have plenty of heights at Richmond Heights.
I mean, if they're holding these top level teams to 20s and 30s and winning by 40 or 50 points.
Yeah, their rim protectors are massive at Richmond Heights.
Man.
So, but JFK has really good guard play, and if you have to bring those guys out to guard the perimeter, then that's where you can get into some trouble against guys that are really good at rim protecting. You can bring them out and say, hey, you have to stop us out here. We're a little bit faster than you. We're a little bit smaller than you, and we can go right around you. So hopefully for JFK, that's the game plan.
And if they're able to, the 3 ball, that changes things. So they can knock those down. They pull their bigs out and knock them down, and then they're kind of forced to put more emphasis on stopping that. Could be something JFK could go to.
It all goes down Friday at 7. Going to be a fun one in Canton. We have 2 teams going for the regional finals tonight. Cardinal Mooney and Hoban are both fighting in Division 1 and Division 3, respectively. And then tomorrow we have 2 as well, as Ursuline plays and Canfield both play in the Canton Memorial Fieldhouse at 6 and 8. Once again, a reminder that those games will not be broadcasted on YSN due to the NFHS having video rights down there, so we cannot get our cameras in the door, but we will have as many reporters out as possible. We will try to get as many recaps up and interviews up as possible from these games and still keep our coverage alive. So tomorrow we will recap the Mooney and the Hoban games. We'll talk about what happened there, and we will also preview, of course, the Canfield and Ursuline games. We have a couple of fun content for you tomorrow as well, and that'll wrap up today's episode of Running Point. And also, one last time, putting a bow on Wrestling Wednesdays with Gary Altizer. The season is over, and we had such a fun time for 14 weeks doing this. It feels wild that it's been 14 weeks already. That's
I
like
know.
what, a third of the year, a third of a year almost.
It is, and I'll tell you what. I heard more about Wrestling Wednesday this weekend than I have in a while, and whether we know it or not, Wrestling Wednesday reaches a lot of people, Anthony, and I think there are a lot of people that are happy we do it.
I don't know when it happened. Sometime this year. I don't know if it was just word of mouth, but it blew up. Like it did. The views blew up. We broke the Running Point record last week. At some point, maybe it was because we had a really popular wrestler on. Maybe it's because the right person got a hold of it. I don't know, but it absolutely blew up this year, which I'm proud of. Which Gary should be proud of. Chris Colucci, a big part of that as well. He runs our social media account for wrestling. I'm sure that had something to do with it too, getting it out there. So. Man, we're killing it, and I hate to end the momentum almost.
I think it was a body that put us over the top, if you want to know the truth.
I wish there was a second season to not end this momentum that we have on Wrestling Wednesday. I don't want to wait until next November to start it back up again.
We'll have plenty to talk about then, and that's what makes it special. It's short time.
Yep, you got to live it while you live it. So 14 weeks has gone by, and we appreciate everyone that tuned into Wrestling Wednesday. We appreciate all the wrestlers we had on this season. We've had more wrestlers on this year than we ever had before, and we also want to thank all the people that believe in Ysn Running Point and Wrestling Wednesday. Greenwood Chevrolet, our wonderful presenting sponsor, DJ Oakley, for letting us have the reins to do it, and of course his co-owner Brian Scott and Steve Leslie, the GM, putting us in great positions to succeed as well. Want to thank all those guys for letting us do it, and we appreciate all you wrestling fans out there. We will see you next season for Wrestling Wednesday. Gary, one last thank you to you as well for coming on and being our third year of Wrestling Wednesday, and we can't wait to have you back next year. And we know this is not the end of seeing you on YSN. You're going to have other stuff that you're going on between now and next wrestling season for sure.
I'm not going anywhere, that's for sure.
All right, Gary, we'll see you soon, hopefully, and Scotty, we'll see you next Wednesday, and everyone else, all you Running Point fans, we will see you tomorrow on Running Point from 1 to 2. This is Anthony Hartwig, Scotty Minter, Gary Altizer, signing off.